Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December the 4th regular meeting of Town Council. First item, the moment of reflection and respect. I note that 2 days from now, on December the 6th, marks the 35th year since a man walked into the École Polytechnique in Montreal, separated the men from the women, killed 14 young women, wounded 13 others. The day has been denoted by the federal government as White Ribbon Day on December the 6th. We'll have a moment of reflection and respect. Thank you. Begin item 3, confirmation of the agenda.
And that council adopts the agenda for the meeting of December 4th, 2024 as amended by adding the following items. Letters of objection regarding minor variance application A06-24 from Mike Moore, and a letter of objection regarding minor variance application A06-24 from Nancy Leckerman.
Are there any other changes to the agenda? Mover and seconder, Councillor Desrosiers and Councillor Chapman. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor? As carried, thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest? Item 5, delegations and public meetings. We'll begin with the Committee of Adjustment. We have a resolution.
That council does now recess and commence the Committee of Adjustment meeting at 7:03 p.m.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman and Councillor Rod. Okay. And very well.
I'll go ahead and read. The Committee of Adjustment of the Town of Elmer is convened to consider application 06-24. Additional information relating to the applications is available for inspection between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. weekdays at Elmer Town Hall. Signed written submissions are accepted by the Secretary-Treasurer prior to or during the hearing, and such submissions shall be available for inspection by any interested party. If a party who is notified does not attend the hearing, the committee can proceed, and the application is not entitled to any further notice of the hearings. Submissions or requests for notice can be sent to clerks@town.elmer.on.ca. A copy of the decision will be mailed to those who have attended or are represented at the hearing, and those filed a written request with the Secretary for notice of the committee's decision. The committee will receive input in the following order: presentation of the staff report by the Manager of Planning and Development, the agent or applicants, members of the public, and then staff and the clerk. Application 06-24 is made by 187 John Street Incorporated, Lockington Developments, and Axel Lock Holdings as the owner of the property known municipally as 187 John Street South in the town of Elmer. The purpose of this variance is to permit the construction of a 3-story building with 1 commercial unit on a portion of the ground floor fronting onto John Street North, and 36 residential apartments on the remainder of the ground floor and 2 floors above the ground.
Thank you. I haven't heard of the resolution. I don't think I called for a vote on convening the meeting, so I call for a vote on convening this meeting. All those in favor? As carried. Thank you. Next, could the Manager of Planning and Development please provide her report?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. The minor variance application before you tonight, as mentioned, it's for 187 John Street North. is to grant relief to several sections in the Town of Elmer zoning bylaw to permit the construction of a mixed-use building, specifically a building with a commercial unit on the ground floor and with residential units to the rear and above the ground floor, with a total of 2 additional units above and beyond the ground floor. So moving on, in figure 1 of my report, kind of just shows the aerial of this property. It's located on John Street North, bounded by John Street North. It's bounded by John Street North, Walnut Street East, and Murray Street. Figure 2 just shows some conceptual drawings of the proposed building for this property. And then the third figure is kind of showing a preliminary site plan for this property. So moving on to planning evaluation in terms of consultation, the following town staff provided comments. The Director of Infrastructure essentially commented that this development would need to connect to the town's sanitary and water systems as well as storm systems. Also commented that a lot grading plan must be completed, including an outlet to the stormwater for a legal and adequate outlet. Commented that John Street North is a county roadway. Servicing connections are required to connect to John Street. A county road occupancy would be required. No further comments with proposed variance, and town staff would continue to work with the owner should this variance be approved through the site plan application process. This also includes looking at correcting the Walnut Street cross-section to include an installation of a sidewalk in the town's right-of-way. As well, I also received comments from Canada Post commenting about the need for installing a mail panel in this building should it be approved. This application was circulated to all neighboring property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands. At the time at which I submitted this report, I didn't have any comments from the public. That has changed. I have received comments from Mike Moore. Mike Moore's comments essentially is concerned about having access onto Moore Street. Second concern is about the increase in the building height that is being requested. Third concern is regarding the parking, the reduction in parking setback along Murray Street. Mr. Moore is of the opinion that there should be no entry or exit to this property on Moore Street, that the owner should maintain the current maximum building height of 7.5 meters, that they should maintain the current street line setback at 3 meters, and that no residential use should be permitted along Murray Street. The second letter of concern I received was from Nancy Lickman. Basically, Nancy's concerns is that she feels as though there is too many residential units being proposed for this property. Also has a concern about the potential for an increase in traffic on Murray Street. Should also note, and my apologies to this, that Nancy lives at 15 Murray Street and Mike, the previous objector, lives at 13 Murray Street. The other concern that Nancy has is concern about the increase in the height for the building, as well as it could potentially be blocking the view for her home. And the last concern she has is the potential residents that may be moving to this property. So moving on to the planning policy review, I just want to remind you for this minor variance application, the applicants are requesting for an increase in maximum building height to 12 meters. They're asking for residential use to be permitted along a portion of Walnut Street and for residential use to be permitted along Murray Street. They're also requesting that a parking area street setback be reduced down to 0 meters along Murray Street, and this is to fit all of the required parking spaces that are required for this development. And lastly, they're requesting for an increase in the maximum fence height to 2.4 meters, which is also 7.87 feet, along the lot lines of 157 John Street North, and this would be from the front of the building to the rear of that building, along 11 Chestnut Street East and along 89 Chestnut Street East. They're also requesting for council to grant an exemption to section 1.5 of the division and fence bylaw number 37-17 as it pertains to the maximum fence height. So moving on to the planning policy review. Under Section 45 of the Planning Act, it allows municipalities to grant a minor variance to a zoning bylaw based on the 4 tests as follows. The first test, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan? And for this development, yes, it does. The property is designated arterial commercial, which permits commercial uses that require a high degree of access and visibility to traffic. The types of uses that would be the primary use would be such uses as restaurants, automotive uses, and retail stores. Permitted arterial commercial uses are specifically listed in the zoning bylaw. So therefore, the proposed minor variance for the proposed development does not contravene the official plan policies. Second test, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Yes, it does. The property is zoned support commercial, C2, which permits a variety of commercial uses, as well as it also permits dwelling units in the rear of the ground floor and above the ground floor of a commercial use building. The intentions of establishing a maximum building height is to ensure compatibility with and minimizing the casting of shadows onto adjacent buildings and land uses. The intent of requiring commercial uses along a street is to provide sufficient commercial units in commercial areas and to provide a high degree of access. The intent of providing a parking area set back to a property line is to provide buffering between the parking areas and the street. And lastly, the intent of setting a maximum fence height is to minimize the potential for obstructed views between neighboring property owners. I can comment that with the exception of these requests, that this proposal meets all other C2 zone requirements. The third test, is the variance requested desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the lands and buildings? And yes, it is. The variance will allow the owners to construct the proposed 3-story commercial residential building. The increase in height will enable the owners to construct residential apartments in an area of this town where they are greatly needed and in close proximity to commercial, institutional, and recreational uses and services. The height increase is in keeping with neighboring buildings that are also taller, such as a neighboring place of worship and a multi-unit 2-story residential apartment building in the area. Permitting residential uses on the ground floor along Walnut Street East and Murray Street East will allow for ground floor accessible residential units to be constructed. The reduction in the parking area setback to the lot line along Murray Street will allow the development to provide the required parking spaces for residents and for visitors. And lastly, the increase in fence height along the lot lines will provide additional privacy between properties and for the apartments that would overlook onto these properties. And the fourth and final test, is the variance considered minor in nature? And yes, it is. It's really important to look at minor not based on a specific number, but look at base it on the test in terms of the degree of potential impact to neighboring property owners, the environment, and the municipal, county, or provincial functions. And the impact from the proposed variance is minimal with respect to the environment, municipal, and county functions and the surrounding property owners. So in conclusion, it's the planning staff's opinion that the proposed application for a minor variance is desirable for the appropriate development and use of the lands and meets the intent and purpose of the official plan policies and the zoning by regulations. And recommending that the request for the proposed application for minor variance, A06-24, be approved, subject to any concerns coming forward tonight, in addition to the comments that have already been submitted in oral and written submissions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather. Is the applicant present? If so, does he or she wish to speak?
Hello.
Could you approach the microphone? State your name.
Hello. My name is Wayne Axelson, along with Ben Lockington. Our intention is to build this 3-story unit. Primarily, we want to rent it to seniors. We think it's a fantastic location. That's literally 100 feet away from a grocery store. A few reasons we want these variances is working with Heather. She's been fantastic. But they want to increase the number of parking spaces per unit. That is not in the current zoning, but that's something that she tells us the town is after. Our parking setback would go to the existing fence, so we're not going over any existing green space. It's already at the fence line. I think other than that, the increase in the height on the fence on the south side. What we would like to do is where Grandma's Oven is directly to the south of us. They now have a large white fence to hide, I would say, the unsightliness of the old lumberyard. We would like to lower that down so there's a nice sight line to Grandma's Oven and to traffic going north seeing our building. Then at Grandma's Oven, go up to an 8-foot height and just go around the remainder of the south barrier of the property, because there's a couple houses to the south that one on the southeast is literally right on the lot line. And we just want to kind of hide some of the unsightliness and make it appealing for everyone. The traffic, I guess, increased on Murray Street. I think for seniors, the appeal of a property like that is they can live there without a vehicle, and they can walk to everything. They can walk to the downtown core for shopping, to grocery stores, or what have you. I really don't think that the traffic will be that much more. There will be obviously more, but that's just a part of growth in a town. Other than that, do you have any questions for me?
Okay, thank you. There might be some questions later on from you, so
Okay.
stick around.
Okay.
First, I'd like to see if there's any other members of the public who wish to speak that are in attendance. Okay, I'm seeing none. Is there someone online virtually that would like to speak?
There is, but there's no indication.
Sorry,
There is someone online, but
Okay.
there's no indication.
he's not to speak. Okay, very, very good. Are there any, I guess just ask the clerk to confirm whether any members of the public wish to speak to the application that you're aware of?
No, and no further correspondence other than the ones listed on the agenda have been received.
Okay. And you've mentioned the communications you received. We haven't received any others. Okay, council, do you have any comments, questions? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Your Honor. An 8-foot fence is extremely high, and I understand your reasoning for it, but is there any way that you could do a 7-foot fence, which is a compromise between the 6-foot, which is normal, and an almost 8-foot fence?
We're willing to do, what the town wants, what's best for the town. I have another business that we manufacture metal products. We're gonna make a nice metal powder-coated peeling fence. We can make it 6 feet, we can make it 3 feet, but, what we would like, since we're here asking, is we would just like to have a little bit of a height increase, just for visual appeal, for privacy for the neighbors to the south, and for our parking area.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is one of those kind of projects where if you lived in the neighborhood, it's probably, it would be a huge change to you. From the town's perspective, it provides a number of residential units. It provides a commercial space which was lacking in a recent redevelopment projects in the immediate vicinity. As far as the height of the building goes, as was mentioned in the report, there are several buildings in proximity that are similar to the height. As Councillor Chapman mentioned, the only thing that really twigged my interest was the height of the 8-foot fence, and whether it be more reasonable to push it back a foot, knock it back a foot. Understanding your objective to achieve a higher level of privacy on both sides.
Councillor Chapman, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to add, the fact that you're plan to target seniors, I think is great. The proximity to the grocery stores and many other amenities is fantastic. So the only concern I have is the fence.
The reason we're asking is, if you stand in that old lumberyard and looks out, a little taller fence would be nice. That's all.
Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mayor Cookit. A couple things. I also agree with my colleagues here that a building geared towards seniors is much needed in this community, so I think it's a great location as well. As far as the fence goes, I personally do not have a problem with the scale of the fence. From reading the feedback we did receive from neighboring properties, they didn't mention, did they mention the fence, Heather? Was there a mention, or just overall height of the building?
Yes, fence, well, hold on here. Fence was not mentioned by Mike Moore. Yeah, fence height was not mentioned by Mike Moore. Fence height,
Yeah,
no.
Okay.
No, fence was, no, I do not see fence mentioned in either of these letters.
Okay, thank you so much. I didn't think there was, and I guess I'm asking the applicant now, has there been any discussion with those properties that are butting up against that fence? Like, have they expressed that they are in favor? Have they expressed that they are, opposed to it? Personally, if I was living there, regardless if I had a sightly property or not, I would, if another property owner, or the other property was willing to pay to put up a fence up that side, I would be happy with it, but have you received any feedback from those neighbors?
Not to the neighbors of the south. I know the one on the southeast corner is a triplex. I think they're all tenants. We have spoken to the lady that owns Grandma's Oven, and she's happy. That's it. Yeah.
Just a follow-up question, if I may, and then I'm done.
sure.
Thank you. The only other question I have is, one of the concerns that was outlined is the overall, I guess, sightline and street landscape, the impact of the neighborhood. Could the staff, or maybe even the applicant, provide more information on any plans or measures in place to enhance the final aesthetic, such as decorative landscaping, tree planting, just to enhance that overall aesthetic, not just have a building simply there?
Yep. So if you look at the, kind of the 3D there, so the parking in the very front is going to be for the commercial space. There'll be greenery along the front and around the side. And then on the north side along the Legion, right now it's all pavement parking there. That's going to be turned into sidewalk and green space. And then around the perimeter of the building will be some kind of vegetation, bushes, flowers, I'm not sure exactly what. And then you can see all along the east side there, and then in those little parking islands will be all greenery with trees, and, the architect will make that look pleasant. I'm sure there'll be little, yeah, he's done some renderings, and, yeah, they're gonna put some little stuff like that in.
Heather?
Should this application be approved, the owners will be subject to site plan approval. As part of site plan approval, we've already had pre-consultations with the owners. We will be asking for a landscape plan as part of the site plan process.
Okay, thank you.
The person online does wish to speak to the fence height, if allowed.
Sure. So the person online, if you state your name and yes, just state your name and your comments.
Hi, we're Karen and Michael from 11 Chestnut. So we own, 15 Chestnut. We own the triplex, and we do have a problem with the fence being that tall. We have tenants in there, and we feel like that's just too tall for our tenants.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from council? All right,
Just a
Brian?
just a comment. It's definitely going to be a different change, but I feel like what is being proposed is needed for the town. And it can't look any worse than the lumberyard that is there. There's always negatives to everything. The neighbors used to listen to forklifts and unloading trucks, and there would have been traffic where the problems that were there are just going to be changed into new problems. Unfortunately, that's part of what happens when things move and things change. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So are we, as council, then amending the recommendation to limit the fence size then? Because that part of the recommendation, I believe, is to grant relief from that. So are we changing that as council to kind of meet in the middle?
We can do that. I haven't heard anybody make an amendment at this point. I was just going to ask if council wanted to change that. Councillor Chapman, you mentioned that first, so
Yes, I would like to see that amendment put in.
you're moving the amendment. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Barber, is there any further discussion on that amendment? Do you have a number in mind before,
I think 7 feet is a compromise. It's still a reasonable height, but a little bit taller than the 6 foot, so try to keep both sides happy.
are you fine with
I
that?
agree.
Okay. So the amendment, we vote on the amendment first. All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question on that amendment. Could you kind of read that so we know what we're talking about?
Yes. So this is a motion to amend the staff recommendation to change the fence height from 7.87 feet to 7 feet.
All those in favor, the amendment? And that is carried. Thank you. So at this point, we'll vote on the resolution as amendment. Do you have the
Yes.
statement?
So that resolution.
Before that, I guess the amendment was passed. Is there any further discussion on this before I bring the whole resolution to a vote? Seeing none, go ahead and read that.
That application for minor variance A06-24 seeking relief from as follows. Number one, that the maximum building height shall not exceed 12 meters. Number two, that the residential use along a portion of Walnut Street and the residential use along Murray Street shall be permitted as per section 15.3 II. And that the parking area street line setback be 0 meters or 0 feet along Murray Street. And number four, that the maximum fence height shall be 7 feet along the lot lines of 157 John Street North from the front of the building to the rear, 11 Chestnut Street East and 89 Chestnut Street East. And that council grant exemption to section 1.5 of the division and fence bylaw, number 37-17, as it pertains to the maximum fence height.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favor of the resolution? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we had a mover, and didn't we have a mover and seconder
I
for
don't
this
think we did,
resolution?
Your Worship. No,
Did we not? Sorry. Let's have a mover and seconder and go through this again. Councilor Van Raes and Deputy Mayor Barber. Mover and seconder, and I'll call the vote again. So we have a mover and seconder. All those in favor of the resolution and carried. Thank you very much. So we need a resolution to move out of Committee of Adjustment.
That the Committee of Adjustment does now close and council reconvene at 7:28 p.m.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, Councilor Rahi, all those in favor, is carried. And at this point, are we have a bylaw resolution? Okay.
That council hereby grants relief to section 1.5 of the Division and Privacy Fence Bylaw, number 37-17, as it pertains to the decision of the Committee of Adjustment for approval of the minor variance application A06-24 for 187 John Street North, and that the maximum height shall be 7 feet along the lot lines of 157 John Street North from the front of the building to the rear, 11 Chestnut Street East and 89 Chestnut Street East.
Thank you. This is the bylaw that covers the resolution that we just made, right? Correct? So do you have a mover and seconder? Councilor Van Raes and Councilor Rahi. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Item 5.2, Kelly Colho, the Manager of Health and Wellness, presentation on YWCA Aquatic Program. Kelly, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council, for the opportunity to come before you again this year and share more about local aquatic programs provided by the YWCA St. Thomas Elgin, and also to highlight some of our experiences this past summer. I'd also like to thank you for your ongoing support of water safety education, swimming lessons, life-saving training, and recreational swimming for children, families, and individuals in our communities. As mentioned, I'm Kelly Coelho, Manager of Health and Wellness with the YWCA, and I'm here tonight with my colleague Melissa McDowell, YWCA Aquatics Coordinator. As described when I was here last before you, the YWCA has provided aquatic programming in our community. I think I can just click down. There you go. For the past number of years at local facilities, including at the Ontario Police College and Terrace Lodge during fall, winter, and spring sessions, and also during the summer months at the outdoor pool here in town, the largest pool in Elgin County. Program delivery is only possible with pool facilities. They go hand in hand. Through these partnerships and shared resources, we are able to have a greater impact together. At the outdoor pool, maintenance improvements made leading up to and during each summer are important in meeting established safety standards, being responsive to changing community needs, and providing a safe, enjoyable community amenity. Sorry, I'm halfway down. And also quality services. This past summer, significant efforts, including anti-entrapment drain covers, concrete work, caulking, painting, ladders, new lifeguard chairs, and many other works in between and beyond were undertaken at the pool amid many priorities and tight timelines. On behalf of the YWCA and the communities we serve together, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council and town staff for the resources, dedication, and care put into the outdoor pool to support and promote activities there that grow individuals and communities. As in the past few years, the YWCA also continued to build aquatic program delivery and services this summer. Not including guardians of children in swimming lessons or life-saving training, 5,300 swimmers attended the outdoor pool, with on average close to 600 visits to the pool each week during the summer. It truly comes alive. And if you've been down there, you would have seen how busy it can be. This past season, Life-Saving Swim for Life swimming lessons for parent and taught, preschool, swimmer fitness, and adult levels, sorry, I'm just going to slide that down a little bit more, were offered during daytime and evening sessions in addition to life-saving training programs on the pathway to become a lifeguard. Recreational swimming was expanded to be offered on Sundays for program delivery 7 days a week, with daytime and evening swim times available. Swimming started earlier in June and wrapped up later in August than in the past few years. As demonstrated in this slide, registrations in local year-round aquatic programs provided by the YWCA, specifically swimming lessons and life-saving training, have been on the way to returning to pre-pandemic levels. With registrations currently still being accepted for classes beginning in January, registrations have actually now surpassed 2019 levels beyond what is demonstrated in this slide, with over 1,100 registrations for 2024-25 thus far. If you'd like to learn how to swim or move forward on the path to becoming a lifeguard, there is still time to register and some spaces available. For the summer season specifically, participation rates have climbed each year. However, after exceeding pre-pandemic registration levels in aquatic programs in the spring of 2024 and an upward trend in participation, a decline in summer aquatic program registration was identified early in the 2024 season in comparison with summer 2023 levels. Registration in summer aquatic programs by Elmer residents was mostly in line with 2023 levels. However, registrations by Elmer non-residents fell off to approximately 77% of 2023 levels. Although registration decline during the summer months could be due to a variety of factors, affordability considerations, including significantly increased costs of swimming lessons for Elmer non-residents, may have likely played a role. The YWCA promoted available financial support to join in, including through donations and individual child grants through Canadian Tire Jumpstart. Overall attendance at recreational swims increased in the summer of 2024, with 3,361 swimmers joining in, compared to 2,600 participants in 2023. Public swimming opportunities bring together caregivers and their children, youth, and older adults as they get active, learn to swim, build fitness, meet up with friends, make new ones, or cool off on a warm summer day. With thanks to community sponsors, free recreational swimming opportunities were available for the community each week on Fridays and Saturdays throughout this past summer, for a total of 16 free swim days, almost double the number from the previous summer. We are so very grateful. I'd like to take a moment just to thank each sponsor for supporting free local swimming opportunities in our community. Thank you to Elmer Express, Action Financial Group IA Private Wealth, Integrity Transportation Logistics Incorporated Freight Brokerage, HBI H Brower Equipment Sales and Service Incorporated, Kinsman Club of Elmer, Miller's Your Independent Grocer, Luke Siemens Helder LLP Chartered Professional Accountants, Steelway Building Systems, the Optimist Club of Elmer, and the Optimist Club of South Dorchester. Through your new and continued support and generosity, free recreational swim attendance exceeded total participation for all other recreational swims throughout the summer, with 1,875 swimmers joining in. This again demonstrates the impact of affordability on participation and engagement and the important contributions to communities that local businesses make. Thank you again, swim sponsors, and we should certainly hope you'll consider supporting these opportunities again in the future. Some additional highlights from the summer are shown on this next slide. Some of them have been previously mentioned. But I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council, for once again joining with us and the Elgin County Drowning Prevention Coalition in proclaiming National Drowning Prevention Week in Elmer and in supporting efforts to contribute to community initiatives and activities that aim to raise awareness, build skills, and prevent fatal and non-fatal drowning. Local youth also got involved this summer. With the support of the Elmer Area Community Foundation, 14 youth aged 13 and up engaged in Becoming a Leader programming, with 9 of them continuing on with aquatic program placement experience and moving forward on the life-saving training pathway to become a lifeguard or swim instructor. Together, they contributed a combined total of 178 hours of service to support aquatic program delivery here in Elmer. Throughout the summer overall, 31 youth engaged in learning and skill development through emerging leader, volunteer, and employment roles and contributed in their community. So thank you so much to these amazing leaders. The sustainability of providing these opportunities and aquatic programs within our communities hinges on all of the puzzle pieces coming together. Year-round pool facility access, program and service responsiveness, enhanced recruitment and retention strategies, including local leadership pathways, ongoing learning and development, and year-round employment, in addition to funding support and community partnerships, are all vital building blocks in keeping local swimming opportunities afloat. In particular, funding and community resources have been and continue to be critical to maintaining viability to deliver aquatic programs. As shared when I was last here, and as is the case in many sectors, costs to program delivery are increasing, including those related to recruiting, training, and retaining staff, local youth who are eager to grow, learn, and contribute. Revenue from program fees are not sufficient to cover program delivery costs, and we know and see the impact that affordability has on participation and engagement. The YWCA works ongoing to seek out and secure additional sources of funding to deliver these important community services. Financial support from other levels of government, grants, foundations, local businesses, service clubs, and private donors all contribute to, but are not stable or consistent. They change year to year, require lengthy application processes, have eligibility criteria, and are often time or project limited. Reliable sources of funding and collaboration are required for local aquatic program sustainability. The YWCA St. Thomas Elgin is grateful for our ongoing partnership and the financial support from the town of Elmer in offering aquatic programs each summer season at the outdoor pool. With a tragic 2024 summer of drownings in southwestern Ontario, access to affordable local water safety education, swimming lessons, and supervised recreational swimming are key to not only drowning prevention, but also health promotion and community vitality. We look forward to continuing to work collaboratively in enhancing individual quality of life and also community health and well-being. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and members of council, for your time this evening and for the opportunity to share more about local aquatic programs provided by the YWCA here in town.
Excuse me. Very good. Thank you, Kelly, very much. Providing such a great service to this community and for getting so many sponsors for the number of public swims that we had this year. It was incredible. Council. Rosie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to echo that thanks to YMCA, to Kelly, to Melissa, and to all the generous sponsors that make this service available here in our community. My family benefited and is benefiting for taking swimming lessons with the YMCA at Terrace Lodge, and we had several community swims at the outdoor pool this year. Melissa, I know she saw us there. So much appreciated from my family and from this community and from this council as well. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's good to see a reasonable number of young people that want or could consider going into the lifeguard field. Secondly, the numbers from Elmer appear to be fairly consistent over the last couple of years. Outside Elmer took a bit of a hit this year, potentially because of the difference in cost. Did your folks experience any negatively at the time of registration that precluded anybody from outside Elmer participating?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I would say that, whenever there's a cost increase, it does have an impact on families, and affordability is something that we're all experiencing and navigating in these times. So certainly affordability, as you can see from the number of free swims and how the attendance was impacted at those, impacts someone's ability to participate. We certainly promoted and did our best to ensure that folks were aware of available financial supports that were available, either through individual child grants, and we're grateful to receive some support from folks that are interested in or needing support to be able to join in. That being said, sometimes when there's a need for support, it's hard to ask. And so we know that oftentimes instead of asking, maybe they just go without. So we do, like I said, try to promote available resources as much as we possibly can, but it also hinges on the fact that people have to make that step to ask as well. And then again, we certainly still did see participation, but did see that drop off. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much for that report, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6, consent agenda. Oh, we need a resolution for the delegation. Thank you.
The delegation from Kelly Coho, Manager of Health and Wellness, regarding the YWCA Aquatics Program delivery for 2024 be received for information.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers and Councilor Van Raes. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 6, consent agenda. We have a resolution.
The December 4th consent agenda be received for information, and that council approves the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on November 20th, 2024.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Chapman and Councilor Rahi. Any comments or questions on any of these minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, it's carried. Thank you. Item 7, Public Works Coordinator, report on the large item waste collection resolution.
That report operations 28-24 entitled Program Update Large Item Waste Collection 2024 be received for information.
Seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber, Councilor Rahi. So, take it away, Leah.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to present my report for the program update for large item waste collection. The large item waste collection program was a success this year with 9.5 less collection hours than last year. As you can see from various charts within my report, collection cost is what the majority of the program costs consist of. The cost of the program was down by 6.8% overall from last year's collection program. Staff took advertising the parameters of the program on social media to have the most compliance possible, which will continue to be a focus for future programs. Other than social media enforcement, bylaw was asked to issue 2 verbal warnings to households for not removing unacceptable items from the curbside following the completion of the program. Staff were hopeful that with the implementation of the curbside swap trial program would reduce the amount of waste generated. This would be better for the program economically and more environmentally conscious of the community. My next report outlines that program in more detail. All in all, I think that the program this year ran smoothly. We are able to provide a very high level of service for the community in comparison to other large item collection programs in other municipalities. And for the majority, residents comply with the parameters of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Council, comments, questions? Councilor Rahi?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a comment. I'm glad it went well, just because if we didn't have stuff like this, then people either wouldn't get rid of it or they would be throwing it in ditches places, and we don't need any more of that. So I'm glad that the numbers were in check, kind of where they're supposed to be, and it went well. That's it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Barber?
Just to echo those comments, it's, this is a program that's so well received by the people of Elmer that let's just keep it going.
All said. No one else? All right. All those in favor of the resolution as carried, thank you. Item 7.2, report on curbside swap program resolution.
That report operations 29-24 entitled Curbside Swap Program be received for information, and that council direct staff to proceed with the implementation of the 2025 Curbside Swap Program as outlined in the report.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Rahi. And I think, Rob, are you providing this report?
This will be me again.
Oh, sorry, Lee.
No, it's okay. Thank you. The curbside swap program was trialed the last weekend in September, just prior to the large item waste collection. The program entailed residents placing items to the curbside that can be reused. The program was believed to be received well by the community. This could be seen through positive feedback on social media and participation throughout the community. Some comments from social media are pictured there in my report. I hope that some of you were able to scope out the town and see items that were placed curbside for the program, or even participate yourselves. There was definitely some high-quality items out throughout the town for repurposing. The purpose of the program is for waste diversion and has various social benefits for our community. Staff have scheduled the program to run again before large item waste collection in 2025. An additional program has been added to the waste management calendar for Victoria Day long weekend in May. This event in May will not be backed by the large item waste collection event. So pending the success of this event, if everything goes smoothly, another program which will not be included in the waste management calendar could be done in the summer months, perhaps June, and that can be promoted via social media. Staff do not anticipate any significant financial implications as a result of this program or an increase in corporate resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any? Councillor Chapman.
Through you, your mayor. So you want to do this again in May, but you're not having a large item pickup after this event.
That's correct.
So anything that's not collected by others is to be removed by the owners. And we will make sure this is implemented. How?
Thank you. The parameters of the program will be specifically where where a resident has to remove the item themselves will be advertised, made very clear that there will not be a waste collection event after.
Okay.
And if they do fail to adhere by that, then they will be subject to bylaw enforcement.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you. Just a clarification on the timing. You're suggesting it not be the 2-4 weekend, but sometime in the summer, and later you said in June. Is June the tentative date?
Sorry for the confusion. On the waste management calendar, we have the dates of May 16th through 19th, the Victoria Day long weekend. If that event is successful, it is perceived positively, then we could do another event in the summertime months, in addition to the one on the long weekend in May.
Anyone else? Councillor Wright.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a comment, I guess. I can see the concerns with everyone putting stuff out and then it not getting picked up. That's definitely, but you don't know unless if you try, so maybe it's something we try, and then if it doesn't work, then that's how you learn. You try and you succeed or fail, so hopefully it's not a failure. That's it.
Seeing no one else, all those in favor of the resolution is carried. Thank you. Item 7.3, tender award.
That report operations 26-24 entitled Tender Award 2025 Pavement Management Program be received for information, and that the tender submitted by Royal Crown Construction in the amount of $248,687.10, excluding HST, be accepted, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement with Royal Crown following the terms and conditions in the tender documents.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Desrosiers, Councillor Rai. This is Terry.
Thank you. Through your worship to members of council, the report that's before you is for the 2025 Pavement Management Program. The sections selected for this year are for 2025 are Elm Street, north of Beach Street, and the north leg of Progress Drive from John Street to the corner. These are industrial commercial roads and typically see a higher volume of traffic, specifically truck traffic, which really accelerates the wear of the road. Both sections are showing significant wear and would benefit from a mill and pave project. This type of paving project and tender was posted very early. It received interest from all of the paving contractors in the area. The lowest bidder was Royal Crown Construction. Staff obtained past project experience and references from the contractor, which all checked out. The project represents good value, and staff recommend proceeding with the contract. I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Director of Infrastructure. I just want clarification on the report, and then I have also a comment as well. In the financial impact, the expenditure breakdown lists Fath Ave and South Street. That's not part of this project, is it? It says Fath and South, but then you're mentioning Elm and Progress Drive. Is it all four together, or is this an old?
That's a typo.
Okay.
That's my mistake. I apologize.
Okay, just clarifying. I was gonna say, wow, that's a really good deal. The other comment I have is that with Elm specifically, I have actually received quite a bit of feedback from industrial business residents, I should say, or commercial residents, that was a specific area of concern. So I think we're going to receive a lot of positive feedback from that, especially with the new industrial park there as well. I think this is really going to be good for us marketing that space there. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.4, Director of Infrastructure, tender award on Elk Street, resolution.
That report, operations 27-24, entitled Tender Award Elk Street Reconstruction, be received for information, and that the tender submitted by PVEX Construction Limited in the amount of $4,843,577.42, excluding HST, be accepted, and that the Elk Street reconstruction project proceed with the reduced revised total capital cost estimate of $5,790,731.58, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement with PVEX Construction Limited following the terms and conditions in the tender documents.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber, Councillor Chapman. Terry.
Thank you. Through your worship, this report relates to the tender award for the Elk Street reconstruction project. As council is most likely aware, the design of this project has occurred over several years. To give brief Cole's notes on the progression of the project to date, the original design for Elk was presented at a public information center and received some valuable comments from the public. An additional traffic study was completed to address public concerns and optimize the proposed design for the roadway. The revised design was presented back to council that balances the need for on-street parking, active transportation options, and safety for residents and schools in the area. As you probably know, the Class A estimate for the project was quite large, which is why the project was originally going to be completed over several years. The town was successful at acquiring grant funding for various other projects, which enabled the Elk project to be moved up and eliminated the need to phase over multiple years. Staff believed tendering early as one project would provide the best value and outcome for the project, and this strategy paid off. By tendering early as one project, the tender received significant interest and very competitive pricing. There were 11 total bidders on the project, and PVX was the lowest bidder. The outcome of the tender is very good for the town. The project is under budget, and staff recommend to proceed with the contract. And on that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council. Councillor Chapman.
I just have one comment. I know that the residents of Elk Street are going to be ecstatic to hear this.
Deputy Mayor Barber.
This whole project was the cumulative effect of the expertise of our staff in putting together a viable project based on the wants and the needs of the town and the input from the people, and then to come in at $3 million roughly under initial estimates. You folks really did a great job on this one.
Absolutely amazing. As you say, $3 million under budget estimate. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Terry. Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 7.5, correspondence concerning the complex board.
The resolution reads that the town of Elmer approve the EECC budget as presented.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Rosier, Deputy Mayor Barber. And Heather, you're doing this one? No? It's just correspondence, basically.
Yes.
Any questions or comments from staff? Or from council, rather? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Carry the 7.6, I hear it. A resolution.
That report Finance 29-24 respecting the final 2025 operating and capital budget be received as information, and that council approve the proposed 2025 operating budget as presented with a levy impact of $7,333,568.21, and that council approve the proposed 2025 capital budget at $17,549,134, and that council direct staff to present the final budget bylaw for adoption at a future meeting.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Chapman and Councilor Van Raes. This time, Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you and to members of council, the final operating budget values you have in front of you this evening are an estimated levy impact of 5.07% in 2025, which equates to an estimated tax rate impact of 3.2%, which is pending the finalization of MPAC assessments this week. So this great news can be attributed to the discussions brought forward through the committee, which had several difficult resolutions to work through and that had given strict directions for this budget with regards to objectives. So I really want to thank the chair of the committee at this point for opening all discussion points and encouraging the open discussion of these points through the suggestions by the committee members. And I also want to thank the committee as a whole for productively challenging staff to provide additional fulsome reports with items that we didn't consider initially. So this committee was focusing on deliverables that were, attainable, and we were able to keep this timeline that we had proposed in June for this budget. So a little recap of some of the accomplishments of the last few months through this committee of council, supporting staff and working through the execution of these applications, such as, September, we were excited to hear about the Hughes grant funding. So $4.5 million related to lagoon optimization and SCADA, which would have avoided this town from having to issue debt and drawing down those obligatory water and wastewater reserves significantly. Happy to mention this point that the water tower debt issuance that we expected was going to be $7.7 million that we had opened capacity for. We only debentured the 6.7. We're not anticipating at this point that we're going to need the extra million. Again, we only debentured the 6.7, but we will hold it as a contingency until the commissioning of the water tower. Another good news story was obviously the tenders tonight with the great outcomes in the pavement program, sidewalk program, and Elk Street. So these projects can be completed within budget, and the timeline for Elk Street can be accelerated to 1 to 1.5 years versus the original phased-in approach, which obviously saves money and saves time and saves headache for the residents. So these are directly results of the committee approving that capital budget in principle and allowing Terry and Rob to get these tenders out early. So all the while, all this good news doesn't help the gap in the asset management funding required to upgrade the parks and recreation facilities and buildings and vehicle replacement. Immediately, it will help for us to continue to invest in infrastructure required to grow the community, and which will also help pay for the future capital requirements that do not have grant opportunities, such as the building, vehicle replacements, et cetera. So we can fund these projects, though, through the additional future tax assessment from the growth and plan to do contributions from future tax levy to capital to be able to pay for some of these other projects, which is what strategic direction has been from council all along. So I just wanted to remind council also of the other items that the Finance Committee has worked through over the past few months by completing several deep dive reviews and receiving detailed reports on. The Training and Membership and Development Program, which was generated substantial discussion and changes in this area, allowing for council to be able to attend more training sessions in the future. The Budget Survey and Results Report has supported developments in the Parks and Recreation. So those are deliverables that will be executed in 2025. Many delegations came from the community. The committee also worked through the grant applications and debated them and made sure that the majority of the community partners were supported. Finally, reports on critical restructuring changes and adding resources were necessary to execute council's strategic priorities. There also has been several detailed discussions on the prioritization of the capital budget projects for infrastructure that align with the grant funding opportunities, which we're seeing the benefit of. And then, of course, the several reports on overall compensation and consideration to ensure staff retention for the future. So with that said, as I mentioned, we should have the final MPAC rollbook next week. Then we can prepare the majority of the bylaw, awaiting the county rates and pending the outcome of their budget process. And we can, in finance, switch gears to focus on completing the year-end activities, and also in operations and parks, completing and executing more tenders with detailed project reports and capital budget plans for 2025. So I will answer any questions that council may have at this point.
Thank you, Heather. With all the stuff that's going on, it's a technical term, with all the stuff that's going on, it's amazing we can have a budget at 3.2%. A comment from council. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Worship. As council will now consider final approval of the 2025 budget, I want to take a moment to reflect on the work of the Finance Committee that has brought us to this point. Crafting this budget has been like docking a large ship. It takes a steady hand, teamwork, and careful coordination to ensure we bring it safely into the harbor. Every member of the crew, council, staff, and the community has played a critical role in guiding this process to a successful conclusion. Tonight, we are at the final stage, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished together. This budget prioritizes affordability, responsible investment, and a commitment to our community's future. It includes significant projects like the Elk Street reconstruction and lagoon optimization project, which will enhance our infrastructure without placing undue financial pressure on residents. We've heard from residents year after year about the importance of Elk Street and housing affordability. In our recent budget surveys, these were both consistently highlighted as top priorities, including both Elk Street and housing enabling investments like the lagoon upgrades in the 2025 budget reflects our commitment to listening and acting on what matters most to our community. Everyone cannot get everything that they want. We've all come together to share in moderation, balancing the needs of the town with what is fair and reasonable. While not specifically highlighted in this year's budget documents, the benefits of past investments in process modernization are continuing to pay off. Thoughtful planning and restructuring have allowed council to achieve a 1% levy savings, an example of how careful decisions in the past can ease financial pressures today. This budget isn't about unchecked spending or cutting corners. It's about balancing progress with responsibility and ensuring that every dollar works for the benefit of our community. The result is an estimated levy impact of 3.2%, which is anticipated to be one of the lowest in the area. This is no small feat. During times of economic uncertainty, when families are feeling the strain of rising costs, this budget is a promise to stand by our residents and invest in a better tomorrow. It moves us forward responsibly, providing the services our community expects while staying mindful of the financial pressures facing households. I want to express our gratitude to the many hands that have contributed to the process. Thank you to my fellow council members for your thoughtful deliberation. Thank you to our treasurer, Heather Sachs, for her expertise in steering this budget process. Thank you as well to Chief Administrative Officer Andy Grizel and the rest of the town staff for their hard work behind the scenes, ensuring we had the data and analysis needed to make informed decisions. Finally, a heartfelt thank you to the public for your input. Your feedback throughout this process has been invaluable and will inform the decisions made at this council table for the next year. Government is an ongoing process, and we encourage you to stay engaged and continue sharing your thoughts as we move forward together. I'll close with this. This budget reflects teamwork. It reflects balance. It reflects a shared commitment to Elmer's future. Let's take the final step tonight and continue working together for a bright, sustainable future for Elmer. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Wright.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well said. I'm going to keep mine simpler. No one likes giving the government any more money than they have to, or a municipality for anything. But I think a 3.2% increase is fairly fair, and I really like how it's broke down to a average monthly household increase of $5.38, because it kind of 3 coffees or 4 coffees a month is what the increase is, and with the increases of everything else in this world anymore. I think that's as reasonable as we could do, and good work to everyone on that. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no one else, all those in favor of the resolution? That is carried unanimously. Item 7.7, Director of Finance Tax Write-Off Provisions Resolution.
That report, Finance 30-24, entitled Tax Appeal Write-Offs Future Tax Reassessment Provision 2024, be received for information, and that council approve the additional provisions for 2024.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman and Councillor Rahi. Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in 2020, I'm just going to give a little history on how this reserve came to be. In 2020, the town was notified of a large tax write-off that would have benefited from being provided for instead of being swallowed through the subsettlement run in 2021. So when this came through in 2021, we provided for, I'm going to call it property number 2, for an amount in reserve, and that reserve will collect a little bit of interest, so that reserve's now up to $71,000. So there's 2 parts to this provision. One's to true up that property number 2 amount, which has already been provided for, but as you know, the penalties still are being applied to that property. It's obviously increased the write-off provision that I'm suggesting. So the other property is, as you know, the failed tax sale from the adjacent property to 85 Forest Street. So I'm requesting that we provide for this amount, our portion, so that if council wishes to vest and write off next year, you have the provision in for this year, taking it out of a little tiny bit of surplus. And then when it's on the write-off report next year, it's a net zero impact essentially for next year's levy. So the supplement run doesn't have to cover this because it's going into reserve. So that reserve fund was set up for this purpose. If for some, we're still waiting for property number 2, we're waiting for the pending legal review and minutes of settlement to come through, which is why I'm asking for that additional provision. Also, we just registered the tax arrear certificate on property number 2. So essentially, it will go through the same process as the adjacent to 85 Forest Street will, but I'm providing for this ahead of time because we know that, it may happen. So if for some reason property number 2 comes through and the taxes are paid and there's no issue, that will reverse and it'll automatically go back into the general surplus reserve. So this is just allocating part of that to this specific provision. So property number 1 is the failed tax sale. Property number 2 is the property that's going through a legal claim right now. And it's prudent for us to put this money away. So with council's permission, I would like to do this provision for year end, which would increase that reserve to about $146,000.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Council? Question, Deputy Mayor Barber.
Just being proactive rather than reactive.
Councillor Chapman.
That was, through you, Mayor, that was my reaction exactly. Be prepared, and then we don't get caught behind.
Seeing no one else, all those in favor of the motion? Thank you. You're carried. Right. New business and matters of urgency. Reading of bylaws. I have a resolution.
That council gives 3 readings to and approves bylaw 77-24 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 57-99 being the zoning bylaw of the town of Elmer, bylaw 78-24 being a bylaw to appoint the municipal auditors, bylaw 79-24 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at the regular council meeting held on November 20th, 2024.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman and Councillor Rahi. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that is carried. Inquiries by members. Statements and committee reports. Report of the mayor. Thank you doesn't seem like enough to thank the Kinsmen for that incredible parade, the incredible Christmas parade, but, you know, that's all we can do. We can't give the Kinsmen each an Audi or anything like that, but, you know, our gratitude and our thanks. It was an incredible parade. And the town was involved. Councilor Desrosiers was one of the commentators, along with Andy Beck, to comment on the parade. And Deputy Mayor Barber and myself handed out 2,000 Christmas chocolates to children along the way. So it was a grand parade, and thank you very much for being involved. Are there any notices of motion? Councilor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the Government of Ontario has announced legislation requiring provincial approval for new cycling lanes, and whereas this legislation would compel municipalities to demonstrate that proposed cycling lanes will not negatively impact vehicle traffic, and whereas cycling infrastructure is crucial for environmental transportation, road safety, and public health, and provincial oversight on this matter represents an unwarranted intrusion into municipal authority. And whereas the Town of Aylmer is evolving an active transportation plan to enhance walking and cycling infrastructure. And whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, has strongly criticized this proposed legislation as it is as a, quote, significant overreach, end quote, into municipal jurisdiction. And whereas AMO has stated that none of its 444 member municipalities were consulted or shown evidence justifying the province's proposed veto power over new bike lanes. Therefore, be it resolved that, 1, the Town of Aylmer strongly opposes the proposed provincial legislation governing bicycle lanes, and affirming its support for maintaining municipal jurisdiction over cycling infrastructure decisions. 2, that the Town of Aylmer endorses AMO's position that municipalities are better positioned than the Ministry of Transportation to make decisions about local transportation matters based on local knowledge and community input. 3, that the Town of Aylmer calls on the Government of Ontario to withdraw the proposed legislation and respect the established authority of municipalities to make informed decisions about local transportation needs, including the implementation of cycling lanes. 4, that the Town of Aylmer reaffirms its commitment to its transportation plan and the continued development of safe, environmentally friendly, efficient cycling infrastructure for the benefit of all residents. 5, that the town clerk be directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Transportation, the Member of Provincial Parliament representing constituencies within Elgin, Middlesex, London region, to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all municipalities in Ontario. 6, that the Town of Aylmer calls upon municipalities across Ontario to adopt similar resolutions in defense of local decision-making authority and sustainable, efficient, and environmentally friendly transportation planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you proposing that motion for the next meeting? Okay, thank you. There was another hand up. Deputy Mayor Barber?
Thank you. Policing cost funding. Whereas on November 29th, 2024, the province of Ontario announced $77 million in financial relief to offset the increased cost of municipal police services provided by the Ontario Provincial Police in small and rural communities, and whereas negotiated contractual cost of the OPP represent a significant factor impacting the cost associated with all municipal police services in Ontario, and whereas the cost of municipal police services in small and rural communities have increased dramatically due to inflationary impacts upon salaries, and such increases are not unique to the OPP, and whereas it is important for the province to provide fair and balanced funding to municipalities in a way that doesn't favor the Ontario Provincial Police over small local police services. Therefore, be it resolved that Aylmer Council requests the province of Ontario to review and provide funding to support small rural police services in 2025 to a similar level as has been provided by those serviced by the OPP, and that a copy of this request be sent to Premier Ford and the Solicitor General Michael or Kersner with copies to all municipalities that have a population of under 50,000 and operate their own police service.
Thank you. And you intend to do this at the next meeting?
The next meeting, yes.
Very well. See that the clerk gets a copy of those notices of motion. Next item, any further notices of motion? No. Next item, meeting closed to the public. There is none. Adjournment. We will adjourn until January the 8th, which will be our next meeting. If there's a need for another meeting before that time, I can always call one, but at this point, I don't think there is. So we'll meet again on January the 8th, and I understand that the items may be out for, the agenda may be out before the end of the year. Okay. Notice to adjourn.
That council do now adjourn.
Question first?
No, I was going to motion to adjourn.
okay.
Sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
That council do now adjourn at 8:20 PM.
Moved by Councilor Desrosiers, seconded by Councilor Rahi. All those in favor? As carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.